Okay, we are almost to the end. Almost to the end, and we're pushing forward to getting to present time. As I'm waiting to get to present time, as I've had enough of the flashbacks. But okay, come on now.
And I'm like, come on through, Cookie.
I'm going up on my soapbox. That's basically it.
Let's talk about drag and all its forms. What,
Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is my review for season 8 of American Horror Story. This is American Horror Story Apocalypse. This is episode 9. This is the next to last. There's 10 episodes. This is episode 9. We are still, like I said, trudging around in the past of what happened and a lot of flashbacks. And I'm really getting anxious to move to present time. I'm ready to get to this battle of these witches that are left and Michael Langdon and what's going to happen with the world. I'm getting real anxious, but I'm trying to chill. I'm trying to chill. Come on, Ryan, I trust you. So I'm riding. I'm backseat riding and trying not to backseat drive. But anyway, so here we go. We really learn about how the actual annihilation of the world, the apocalypse, actually really came about, the whole idea of it. And would you believe that it was really all the idea of Mutt and Jeff? These two coke snorting, hide up, whore buying goons. I said, are you kidding me? When we come in, they're fussing. Fussing. Well, it's the little blonde one. He's just fussing his ass off. All about Michael and what Michael's not doing and how basically disappointed he is with the Antichrist and his non-effectiveness and why he doesn't know what the fuck's going on and what he's doing. And the other one told him, he said, well, even Jesus went out to the wilderness because he needed answers. He didn't have all the answers at first. So maybe that's what Michael's doing. Maybe that old fucker was just fussing. And he ain't doing this and this. And I can't believe this. Just fussing. Now, I'm thinking to myself, keep in mind, and they don't know this, that Matt and Jeff don't know this, but we know this from watching. Michael is actually just a child. Remember, Michael was like, what is he? Really 17 or 18 years old at this point? Maybe 20 at the most? Michael was like, he aged 10 years overnight. You remember that? And that was physically, not mentally. Nobody ever said that Michael aged mentally overnight when he aged that decade. That was just physically. He grew into a body. He's just literally a mean little kid. So, of course, he doesn't have all the answers about the fate of the world and how to actually end the world. Of course, he has to ponder and search. His journey is, it seems to me, his journey is basically just like the other one, because they really are extremely intelligent, these two idiots, that Mutt and Jeff. They're extremely intelligent. And I think the one with the dark hair is intelligent and not as arrogant as the one with the blonde hair. The one with the blonde hair is that intelligence with that ton of arrogance laying on top of it. Because the other one is actually, he really is piecing that whole thing out. He knows the Bible too. The little Satan worshiper that knows the Bible. But Michael's journey is a whole lot like Jesus's journey. with finding himself and having to learn who he is internally, having to gain his faith, having to speak to the Father and waiting on the Father to come back to him, and all that. The journey, their journeys are pretty parallel. And that's what we basically know. Anybody follows the Bible and all, if you believe in heaven and hell and God and the devil, they were both angels at one point. And their journeys, Jesus and the little devil, honey, them journeys were really a lot parallel, honey. One was just good and one was just bad. So that whole part of this story I find so intriguing, and I'm loving all of that. But like I said, the brown-haired one, he's actually getting it. Where old Blondelia, she ain't getting it. She's so busy being arrogant and getting high and just wants, everything. He's a microwave kid. He wants everything yesterday. But anyway, we sit there and we actually watch as they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then they end up, Miss Venable actually comes to them and tells them, there's a meeting and all of that about the cooperative. And she actually approaches them about being a part of the cooperative. She says she basically wants to be a part of whatever this cooperative thing is. She's like, I've been here, I've been really doing your bidding, but I don't really know exactly what it is you all are doing. But I want in. I want more responsibility. I've literally given my life up. I don't have a social life. I'm here all the time. And I just don't feel like I'm being used to my potential. There's got to be more for me to do. There's got to be more for me to gain from this position. And she's coming from like a job standpoint. And baby, they blew her off. They blew her off. And she said, it has to do with my disability. And they're like, no, not really, girl. You just ain't shit. Like, girl, fuck you. Who cares? Go away. And she's like, fine, I quit. I'm gone. And they were like, what? She's like, yeah, I quit. Again, Blondie. That arrogance. Can't even believe. Blew her off. Like, child, she ain't quit. Anybody think about that bitch. That bitch ain't going nowhere. Pay her no attention. She goes on about her business. Now let's switch on over. We got the witches. They're all sitting around. They're in a class. They're all sitting around. And then you actually have, in the office, you got Myrtle and Cordelia and Mallory. Mallory was actually having some issues with, she was trying to bring this bird back to life, and it wasn't happening. And she was like, what is wrong with my powers? It was like, you're overworking yourself. Myrtle, so you're overworking yourself. You try to push yourself too hard. And you can't do that. When you overwork, your powers will fail you. You just can't do it. It's everything's got to be a natural, and it has to be in a natural progression. So that was that. So everybody's there in the class. Them three are up there. I don't know where Coco and Madison were, but they weren't there. But everybody else was down in the class trying to get the witches together. Cordelia said, we're good. There was that threat put on them by Michael about killing them. So they're getting prepared. Cordelia had actually done a spell around the Robichaux Hall, the house, to keep evil and bad juju out. And what they didn't know was Dinah, this voodoo bitch, has sold her soul to the devil. Do y'all remember I said something about that earlier on? I was like, I think she basically kind of sold her soul to the devil, and it had to do with her, her success as it pertained to regular life. Exactly. She has sold her soul to the devil. Some shit about he had done gave her like 13 more episodes or 13 more seasons for her show, had herself all set. Meanwhile, she then took her ass and working with Michael and Meade, she does this voodoo spell to crack the damn spell that Cordelia did over Robichaux, and they were able to enter the house. So nobody even knows they done came in the house. They come into the room. There's a whole battle, baby. They kill all the witches. Killed them all. Killed them all. They tried to fight. They tried to fight. Even Queenie took and tried to slit Mead's. Well, she didn't try. She slit Mead's throat. And I didn't get that either. I said, Ryan, you done did the Tyler Perry thing. Because as it was all going down, you know, they slung all these nails. What's her name did that? It was fierce too. What's her name? Zoe took and did one of these, baby, and whoosh, shiny, and she took all these nails, baby, that they had these nails. Each one of the students had these nails, picked them all up, baby, and slung them at Mead and Michael, baby, but Michael was given and shot them all back, baby, and fucked everybody up at the table, honey. Fucked them all up. I said, oh, damn. And then Mead pulled her damn arm off, baby, and had a goddamn gun in her arm. I said, girl, that's so Quentin Tarantino, honey. And was fucking them up, honey. I said, oh, this bitch. But, baby, that goddamn Queenie took and slit her own throat. You know how she does. You know she's a human voodoo doll. Took and slit her throat, baby. And Mead's head gave, and her head flopped all the way back. But then when we turned back around, we see Mead back put together. I was like, Ryan. How her head go back on? She had to go get that head fixed. I said, oh, see, I didn't like that. I didn't like that. But anyway, they fucked them all up. It didn't work. Because, you know, she's just an android, so killed them all. And like I said, Cordelia, Myrtle, and Mallory actually got away. And I don't know where Coco and Madison were at the time, but they ended up all meeting back up. So the 5 of them were actually together later on, and they ended up they went and hid out, and they were going back and seeing that they couldn't actually find Cordelia. Kind of went under trance and took herself back in, and she was trying to like revive the girls and fill them and try to see where they were. She couldn't get them back. Their souls were missing. And that's when Madison actually shared, oh my God, that's right. When we went to the house to find out about Michael, we found out how he could actually kill people's souls as well. Baby, when I tell you that goddamn Cordelia smacked Madison's goddamn taste buds loose, say, how could you forget to tell me that, you dicks? I was like, smack the shit out of her. But I was like, okay, cool. So that whole thing was a big old mess. They ended up going back. We flashed all the way back because they decide what they're going to have to do is to try to, they know that Mallory has the power, and I talked about this earlier, to take people, she has the power to take people back, not only just revive them, but take them back to an earlier time in their life. Remember she did it with the deer? So then we figured out that there's this whole thing with traveling through time. And Mallory, we had to see if Mallory could actually do it. So a dry run. We got this whole story from 1918, July of 1918, that happened in Siberia with a little girl named Anastasia, who actually ended up being a witch. Her family was set up to be terminated. And she basically tried to stop it, you know what I mean? But she wasn't strong enough, and she ended up dying. So as a dry run, they tried to send Mallory back, have Mallory go back and save Anastasia. And they said, Myrtle told them, you know, she could possibly die, because anytime this has ever been done, and she thought it was like a myth, that it actually wasn't really a power that really worked. But anytime anybody tried to do it, there was death that actually happened. Mallory went back, and it actually she had the power. The power does work. That Mallory is a bad, bad bitch. You hear me? The bitch can do everything. But she went back, baby, and she tried to save Anastasia, and she couldn't save her because she couldn't. She just wasn't able to save her. But it was enough. We got enough in the practice run to know that that actually works. And literally, when Mallory came back to, her eyes were bleeding. It was like, oh gosh. And that's what it's like she almost died. She almost died, but she didn't because she's a bad bitch. I was like, all right, so they working on their conjure, honey. They working on their conjure. I was like, okay, now this is getting interesting. Come on. So then they go to meet with the warlocks. Baby, they get there. All of the warlocks are dead. Every last one of them are dead. And then they even actually had them cut up and had them laid out in that satanic circle. It was horrible. Horrible. Fucked them up. I said, oh my gosh. Terrible. So there was a point where Michael was actually speaking to Meade. And the two goons, Mutt and Jeff, they were speaking through Meade to Michael, basically, to convince him to come back to the place where they are, so they could give him this plan that they had come up with. And he's like, okay, cool, no problem. So Michael comes on back. They go ahead and they tell him everything. Tell them everything about all the shit and how they plan to do this apocalypse to literally destroy the world. And I'm like, okay, so Michael's listening, and he's like, okay. Michael, again, this was where I came up with the thing where I said, Michael is nothing but a mean little kid. He was all in. He steadily listened to them. And tell me, y'all said y'all had to have seen this. He was listening to them, but his mind was focused on one thing. And one thing only. He's like, okay, so we're going to wipe out the whole planet. We're going to wipe out everybody on the planet, and there's only going to be these specific group of people who are left, and they're going to be at these outposts and all of this. We got to go talk them into this. All the powers that be. And that's when he gave them the whole thing about the cooperative and who the cooperative was. The cooperative is the Illuminati. Okay? So, that's the whole thing. Only thing Michael was on was, will this take care of the witches? Will all the witches die? That's his whole thing, is to kill the witches. Because he's immature and he's nothing but a mean little kid. He's mad at the witches for killing Meade, and he don't give a shit about really the end of the world and all of that. All he cares about is making sure that all the witches die because they killed his favorite girl. Mean little kid. I said, oh my gosh. So then we actually see them, Michael goes on off, him and Meade, because they got to go meet with the Illuminati. And that was such an interesting thing to actually see them. We seen the list. He had an actual list of everybody was on Illuminati, and literally lit it up. Was like, because this list doesn't really exist, so he burned it up. I was like, child, these two nerds, honey. I said, okay. But we see them sitting, talking to Miss Venable before she could get the chance to leave, and basically brings her in and tells her, we need somebody basically to manage the cooperative. And you'll be able to run these posts, and nobody will really be able to tell you what to do. You'll be doing what you want to do, be doing it the way you want to do it. And you know she's a control freak. So all of that sound good to her, because at first she didn't really believe anything. She's like, they said, have you ever heard of the Illuminati? And she's all like, child, seen something on PBS before, but child, that ain't nothing. That doesn't really exist. And they're like, yeah, it really does. It's called the cooperative. We changed the name for branding purposes. I said, Lord have mercy. But anyway, they get Venable on board with it. We see Michael and Meade show up to the little meeting. He's telling Meade about how he's so nervous about actually meeting with these people and this, that, thing, and the other. And she's like, what? You don't have to be nervous. You're just like a mother, telling him you are the guy. You're the one. They've all sold their souls to you, to your father, rather, to your father. They've all sold their souls to your father. All you're going to do is go in. You're the guy they're waiting on. You're coming in. You're the great white hope. You're the answer to all their shit. And they're all going to bow to you. You don't need to be afraid of them. They need to be afraid of you. I said, oh, isn't this just so interesting? So that was that. They go in. Michael had this badass goddamn black wool and black leather coat on. Michael stole Behold's designer after he killed him off down to the Warlock's lair, honey, and got this badass outfit on. I said, well, go ahead. Sharp. It was so sharp. But anyway, he goes in there. He talks to them all, and we actually see everybody there. He explains the outpost, the annihilation of the planet, and then it's a $1 million buy-in. And that's where we ended. We actually see everybody sitting there, and as we know what ends up happening, of course, all these goons are all in agreement. So that's where we stop. Next week, I guess we'll go into probably a little bit more flashback, but for the most part, we're going to get to the real time and get the damn good versus evil battle underway with our witches. So I said we got Myrtle, Cordelia, Mallory, Coco, and Madison left, and they're conjuring. So I can't wait to see what's actually going to happen. Just as anxious, child. Just as anxious. I don't know how they're going to wrap it all up in one episode. I will probably be pissed off. But it looks like, child, I can swear we would probably need like 5 more episodes to really get to this. But we're going to just put our trust in Ryan and see what actually happens. All right, you guys. I'll catch y'all next week.